Okay, now let's see this.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Can I have your attention, please? We are going to have the division and area governor training right now, and I would like to thank very, very much for our people that are going to be leading this session. First of all, Marty Ogborn and Tom Wilson. And the session is going to be on how to build new clubs. And so I will turn it over to you, Marty. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting us to talk to you about building new clubs. First of all, who would like to build a new club? Who knows how to build a new club? That's what we're going to talk to you about today, but we're going to talk to you about it in the context of a television show many of you may remember. Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. And today our guest experts are Tom Willison and Lorraine Smith. Let's give them a welcome back. Thank you both for being here. We have some questions for you in a little bit. But first I'd like to talk about the adventure in the Wild Kingdom. And of course, what adventure wouldn't have a hat? I was so pleased that you, Lou Ann, were talking about the adventure of new babies and that excitement that comes with that announcement that the potential is there for a new person. I want you to consider that announcement that there's a new club and what it does for your clubs. Because we are all in this together, right? Right. And as we look for new members for our clubs, but also for brand new clubs, there are some things that we need to do in order to be aware of what possibilities there are. In the material you have in front of you, the first thing to do is identify prospects. Now, as you are getting your equipment out to identify prospects, you want to have information about the best places to go fishing. Now, you see over here, there's a glass. And in the glass, there's a fish. And if you are focused on just that glass and just that fish, your opportunities are relatively small. So I want to help you think in terms of the big pond, the big places where you can go fishing. And then, how do you equip yourself to do that, to go fishing for new clubs? Well, one of the things that you have in your handout is a list of corporations that have a large number of people. Now that's one way to look at that map of District 54 and find those best fishing spots. There's another way too that I've used that's a website called Manta. www.manta.com. When you are focused in an area where you would like to build a club, you can think about it so that, well, where is it close to me? Where can I get my resources to that fishing hole conveniently and easily? Because in order for us to be effective, we must be in an environment of fun ourselves, right? If it's not fun, it's really hard to convince anybody else to join you at the fishing hole. Or if you're not calling the fishies the right way, because that's communication, you know, yeah, fishy, 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 yeah, fishy, 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 yeah, fishy, fishy, fishy. You're not going to get that enthusiasm built up and be able to convey what was so well said about what is in our gut. What is it that keeps us coming back to Toastmasters? What did it first feel like, and what does it still feel like? How was that the very first time that you got hooked on Toastmasters? And what did it bring to you as maybe you got out of your glass and you started swimming and following a Toastmaster that you cared about? As that experience happened to you, think about it as how you can share that experience with others. Now, we're first going to talk a little bit about defining the right fishing hole and recognizing it as a corporation that may be convenient. Because in that prospecting, in that looking at the lay of the land, in determining where you might be able to dangle the information that's going to mean something to that corporation, to those people in that corporation, what is it you're going to look for? What is going to mean the most as you qualify the direction that you want to go? Now, I've invited some experts in the field of building clubs, and they have had an opportunity to look at some of the questions that we'll be asking. What, for you, Lorraine, would you mind standing up and sharing with us your experiences looking for that perfect fishing hole? Let's give Lorraine a
One of the requirements for a distinguished Toastmaster is to save a club or build a new club. It took me a long time to become a distinguished Toastmaster. That's because I come from a very small fishing hole in a very big pond. And so my experience in starting a club or saving a club is filled with many failures. However, I don't consider any of them failures because each one was an experience for me. So, and we direct the question more directly, is that you want my experience? It takes a long time sometimes.
It does take a long time.
Right. I was successful several times. One was a corporate club. I did not make the initial contact, but I was part of the growing process. I've had several opportunities to be a part of the demonstration meeting for those who were interested in starting a Toastmasters club. And finally, in my own community, I was able to start an evening Toastmasters club just as a community club. So all of them took a great deal of effort. Do you want me to go on?
Well, absolutely. I respect and I'm
Well,
sure
I don't want to go into the next question.
Well, then we'll wait and get some feedback from you, Tom. What has been the experience for you looking for the perfect fishing pond, or fishing lake, or fishing ocean?
Good morning. I've been involved in building clubs for quite a while. I've been a member for 27 years. In my previous life in another district, I pretty much got the call, like, we have this club ready to roll, could you be a sponsor, could be a mentor. When I moved here and became involved in my first, actually I was area governor in my previous life, but when I was area governor, Area 10, about exactly 10 years ago, and I studied my area, we had 2 clubs in Rockford, Illinois. Rockford's a city of 150,000 people. It has a metropolitan area of 300,000, and I don't know if this is correct, but somewhere along the line I heard that for every 15,000 of population in an area, that's enough to support a club. So I did the math, 2 clubs in Rockford, Illinois, they should have 12 clubs. So what I began to do, and I'm not stealing your thunder from this article, but I went into the online, began to go into the Chamber of Commerce, Rockford Chamber of Commerce, and I started fishing for their members. And I also fished for contact names. And then I went through, found out how many employees they had. I went from larger to smaller. And then I began to craft a letter. I didn't get one from the district. I just basically said that I'm a member of a club in Freeport, Illinois, and I've seen the benefits of Toastmasters and communication and leadership to that organization. Would you be interested in introducing that opportunity to your employees? And I sent them out, and a week later began calling. Actually, I had one person that called me. Came back, I had a phone number, they called me, City of Rockford, saying that she's interested in Toastmasters. I followed up with some phone calls, got several other prospects that were interested in talking to me. And then at that point, when I had enough of an interest, I didn't wait to a conference. I called the Lieutenant Governor of Marketing at the time, who happened to be Michael Smith. I said, Michael, would you be willing to join me up in Rockford? Pick a day that's convenient for both of us, and we'll do corporate visits. So we did corporate visits outside of the conference, went through 2 of those clubs, ended up chartering. One is still there today. It's Rock On Toastmaster in Rockford, which is doing quite well. The other one folded, but 3 years worth of experience for Toastmasters there. Another thing that I did along that same line, which is something to consider, is because I went to the Chamber of Commerce to develop my leads, I looked to see what it would cost for a nonprofit organization to become a member. It was $100 at the time. I paid it out of my own pocket. At that time, I don't think we had the 50-50 type of split. And then I found a subgroup that met solely on communication. And I got in there, offered to give a speech regarding Toastmasters. So again, started to get the word out, started fishing, trying to cover a lot of room or ground to hopefully get the message out, and got several leads. And then Mary Ann, and we had got the lead with the Parks Department through that whole process. That didn't develop into a club. But again, it's getting out and fishing, and some end up getting away, and some, you can tell that the big fish that you did catch, and that have to be rock on.
Exactly. Thank you very much. So I think now we can look at what is in your tackle box. If you look on page 3, you'll see some resources, and this is printed on both sides, and thank you, Tom, for helping with the printing of the material. Okay, you're talking to me a little bit about fishing and how to find the right fishing hole. When I get there, what am I going to use to cast out into that area that's plentiful? We know it's plentiful with people who could appreciate and learn and grow from Toastmasters, because it's part of who we are, and we know the changes it's made in our life. What's in our tackle box to do this? Toastmasters International is a plethora of information and useful tools. Tom spoke about crafting his own letter. Do we have to do that? So where might we find an example of a letter reminding ourselves that they are the guides? They are our guides. And they have the latest and greatest information about the fishing holes, the places where potentially you could find a club or you could find a group of people, and they give you the tools to reach those people. That letter is crafted and recrafted on a regular basis and is available to you on your link number 3. That's that introductory letter. So that's really a juicy, wonderfully fat, delicious earthworm. Just exactly what big fish and little fish are looking for. But especially those big fish in the HR departments. We are all faced with cutting back, just as the HR departments are. So what kind of value? We talked about that when Bonnie told us about being of value to someone every single day. Can you imagine the value that you could bring to an HR manager and say, how engaged are your employees? What would make a difference? How can you do it by a means that's not going to be a huge investment? We have a program. We have that great big juicy earthworm. And there's more of those, and more of those, and more of those. If you'll just let me show you the program. With that letter, that's a way to qualify corporations, groups of people. Maybe it's a Chamber of Commerce. Maybe it's a Lions Club. Maybe it's a church organization. By getting out there and looking at what the potential is, as was mentioned, any 15,000 people, any place with a McDonald's, and let's change that to a dollar store. How many of you like dollar stores? All right, dollar stores are popping up everywhere, and they are also an excellent predetermination of a community that's growing and thriving. So pay attention. Pay attention to where these things are happening within a short distance from where you are. Because you know what? I'm probably not going to go fishing if I have to throw all of my equipment into a boat and attach it to my SUV and then pay all that gas to go all the way up here to northern Wisconsin and go fishing. It won't happen. I'm not going to get it done. But let me tell you about those fishing ponds right in your own backyard. And what happens when you get to go fishing in those ponds. And you see the brilliance of the people that have learned about Toastmasters and have had their lives changed. Right in your own backyard. Now, it may be a case where you don't land that fish for your club, or you don't land that new club for your area. But remember, we're in this all together. The excitement when we see people succeed encourages us and helps us to continue. So all of that is what we're looking for when we're looking for new clubs. I want to make sure you know I do not ever want to shortchange the members of our clubs that have been in existence for years and years. But by bringing this new lifeblood through new clubs and new members, then the whole District 54 is more exciting and vital, and those fish are growing and doing things they could not do by themselves. So let's take another look here. After we've done some qualifying, and I'm going to bring this up now and I'm going to mention it again. You heard us talk about our District 54 new club coordinator, Tom Wilson. And you've heard in your reports today that there are some things going on. In order for us to be effective, in order for all of us to know the great fishing spots we have in District 54, we have to make sure that our guide, our new club coordinator, has that information. And in a format that can be used by generations of Toastmasters. How do we hold that information and maintain it so that there's an archive of what has happened? I bring this to your attention specifically because of the new Pekin Insurance Toastmasters Club. That club has been a sparkle in the eyes of many people for many years. Think of it in terms of your favorite fishing pond and what you want to do to build that fishing pond up so that there's potential in there to help grow a beautiful stock of Toastmasters. Years ago, we approached Pekin Insurance we were considered, but pretty much sent off to the sidelines. We kept going back to that fishing hole, and we kept putting good things into that fishing hole. We kept talking about how that the nurturing of Toastmasters nurtures the employees and nurtures everyone involved to become better communicators and leaders. Now, the environment wasn't quite right, and we know that when we go fishing. Sometimes you have to wait for the right phase of the moon. Sometimes it has to do whether the wind is blowing this way or that. Well, in fact, after many years, all of those elements came into play. And it's important that we have within our guide's handbook of prospects that information. With that, then we were able to go in again. The right HR manager was there, and there were people in that club who understood and knew about Toastmasters. So, this time, it actually seemed easy. And, in this case, we caught a pretty good sized fish, and along with that came many, many more fish. Each one of those people that are now involved in Toastmasters at Pekin Insurance has the potential to take your place and continue the legacy of Toastmasters, to make District 54 Toastmasters a sustainable district with lots of enthusiasm, all in it together with a lot of activity, and people are having fun and doing great things. So you want to look at this as you consider new clubs as a way to sustain our district and to encourage one another. All right, let's take a look next. Well, you know, if we're going to build this up, it might be very helpful if we could explain what the food system is in Toastmasters. And on your resource sheet, you'll see those benefits and values. Now, they are specifically, that's a link to that document, but it specifically talks about the values, the nourishment of Toastmasters, what is there for someone considering to jump into our big District 54 pond. All of that's important for you to know as well, because it reinforces for you why you're still in Toastmasters and improving constantly. Bonnie, help me out with that acronym to improve always. I know it was a different acronym, but constantly improving is something that Toastmasters allows us to do. And I know I heard Steve in the car say, boy, I wish I had been in Toastmasters sooner in my career, because it's helped me so much. So that goes back to why we are doing this. Why? Why should I get out there and take a chance? You know, I'm reminded of a small story. My dad would take me fishing. Why did I keep going out in a very cold boat and sit there to the point where my hands were frozen? And still today, people think, my goodness, you know, those hands look like they're 40 or 50 years older than you are. What was that excitement that drew me into going fishing? Was it the possibilities? Was it every time I cast my lure or my bait into the water that something amazing was going to happen? Well, I want you to think about that as we assign you a task to do before this training ends. Yes, please, our expert Lorraine Smith, stand and tell us a little bit more about your experiences and what you would like to share.
I wanted to talk about the resources. And I want everyone to understand that I come from a town of 5,000 people. So there's none of this 15,000 equals a club. 5,000 people. And I was trying to start a Toastmasters club. I wanted to tell you about the resources that I had. One of the resources was District 54 deciding to have a new club coordinator. This was back in 2003, and that role grew. I was the first new club coordinator with Michael Smith. We developed that list. So there were various opportunities listed for me to try to start a new club. The other resource that I had was Toastmasters International itself, because if they received inquiries about Toastmasters from somebody local, then we would find out about that inquiry by the district governor, and that information would go to the new club coordinator and ultimately to the area governors. So I could see if something was in my area, it was something that I could follow up. So perhaps I would make a phone call because it was an inquiry, or perhaps I would write a letter because it was an inquiry. But if there was any interest at all, because I am kind of an oops person, I was a paralegal, I really worked in a cave, I went to the experts. There are people like Marty who are marketing geniuses, and there are people like Tom who are real good salespeople. And I didn't follow in any of those categories. What I was enthusiastic about Toastmasters. So I might go on a visit to this person or the further contact and let them do the talking, but when it came to Toastmasters, I could be pretty enthusiastic. And then I might help develop that demonstration team. Now, 5,000 people, one club. If we did the demonstration meetings all the time, everybody in the area notices us, and they know we're enthusiastic about Toastmasters. Not too effective. So I would draw Toastmasters from around the area. Now I'm talking about dedicated Toastmasters. Some of them would come from Bloomington, or Rantoul, or Champaign to do this demonstration meeting. They were good Toastmasters. So those are the resources that I had to begin or to sponsor a new club. They're all over there, but I wanted to stress those of you who, like me, do not feel they're the greatest salespeople in the world, just dedicated to Toastmasters. Go to your district officers and tell them, I have a lead here, I want to follow it up, and I need some experts with me. Don't be afraid, they are your best resources.
Right now, I want to make sure you understand your assignment, and then we'll go on. We've talked about the resources, we talked about what's in your tackle box, we've talked about the possibilities. My challenge for each one of you is to think about a possibility. Get that name and address of the organization or company, and find a person you can address a letter to. Now, in that letter, you're going to say, hey, I just thought maybe you'd like to know about Toastmasters. Here's an explanation in this letter, this very small letter. This should take you about 15 minutes a week to find that information, slap a stamp on an envelope, send it out to a person. And in this case, it can be someone close, or maybe you would like to go fishing over in Tom Willison's pond. You know, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you let Tom Willison know. Okay? Now that's why it's important to have our new club coordinator record all of these letters you are going to send. So if we have in this room 20 people, and 20 people send out one letter a week, that's 1,000 letters a year. Now, how is that going to help our current clubs? Any ideas? If there is that potential delicious earthworm out there, and maybe that person who you presented that package, that gorgeous, delicious earthworm full of nutrients and excitement and vivaciousness that will help that person, but maybe it's not their turn right now. But are they going to waste that? Would you waste that? Or would you mention it to someone else? What does that do for the clubs in the current area? So every time we make a cast, we put the bait out there, it will serve another potential Toastmaster, and it will serve you with that excitement to wait and see what happens. And the clubs in District 54, they just might get a new member. So that is your assignment. We'll clarify that at the end of the training in about 10 minutes. But I want you to start thinking about, what can I do once a week? How can I take 15 minutes and look at the lay of District 54 and potentially send that information about Toastmasters out? Once a week, take that corporate letter. If you want to recraft it, if you need any help at all, make sure you just let me know, because I will plan to send you a Word document so everyone can take the content of that corporate letter and craft it for the person or the organization that you intend to send your contact information out. Now, when you do this, I want you to do two more things. In your letter, I want you to make sure that you say, I'm going to call you in a week, and just make sure that if you have any questions, I can answer them for you. And the second thing is, when you send that letter out, be sure and email Tom so he has a record of it. Now, if you get a nibble, all right, and it is really getting exciting, and you need some help because this is just too big for you. Remember what Lorraine said. You don't have to pull this fish in all by yourself. And why would you want to? Why would you want to? The excitement is building. The anticipation of what potentially is there could happen at any moment, and you could share that with people. That would be just as exciting. I have to tell you, it's even hard for me to maintain this much enthusiasm 24/7. But with you, and I love each one and every one of you, it's easy. It's easy. Because I know that if I needed help, Darren would be there. If I needed inspiration, Mary Ann would provide me with delightful thoughts that encourage and lighten my soul. If I needed to talk about public relations and just see all the magnificent things that are going on, I'd be sharing it with Angie. There's so many people here. You don't want to keep this experience to yourself. So, as the opportunities present themselves, you've sent out one letter a week, you've made one call a week, you've let Tom know what you're doing, you're beginning this amazing process of building the energy in that wonderful pond of ours called District 54. Now, there are different experiences, and we talked briefly about the corporate visit. I'd like to now ask Tom if you could help me understand the difference between a corporate club and a community club. How might the bait that I use or the approach that I would use be different?
Hey, Marty and fellow Toastmasters, the big difference is the corporate club is usually, I guess the definition that most people use is the closed. It's closed to that corporation. A lot of cases, the leadership in that organization is willing to finance the dues, take care of the financial part in some fashion. I think that brings up an interesting thing that I won't spend a lot of time talking about. That's something where you should probably get some resources, because I think having individual members with skin in the game helps ensure that that club stays successful in a corporate setting. Because when that financing disappears, then usually the members disappear and that club disappears. So it's something to put in your toolkit if you're looking at a corporate club. The clubs that I worked on in Rockford were corporate based. The one was Swedish American, one was Rockford Memorial Hospital. Rockford Memorial Hospital looked at it, okay, we'll base it here at the hospital, but we want this to be a community type situation. We want to be a good community neighborhood citizen, so we want to offer this opportunity to our neighbors. So it was an open or community club, even though it was based and grounded as through a corporation. Swedish American, on the other hand, said, no, we're going to focus just on Swedish American. I attempted to convince them to open it up because they were having a hard time chartering. Charter strength is 20. You have to get it to 20, which is an important piece of information to be able to share on subsequent visits with your contact. Eventually they did open it up. So a community club can certainly be based at a corporation and serve the community. I had a club that I was involved with in Eagan, Minnesota when I was in District 6. That was a pure community club. And what you're looking for there is usually one of you all or someone in your club who might be interested in serving an unserved area. We heard, I think it was Lewis earlier, talk about that St. Charles area. Eagan, Minnesota needed a nighttime club. It was a bedroom community type of situation. They needed an evening club. So several of us banded together. We found a location at the local library and then started the publicity using our PRO officer as a resource. And it took a little longer. You don't have that base, that corporate base there to help build it. It took a little longer, a little more push. As soon as we got enough new members in, that we started electing and getting officers. We wanted to get that core group started. So my experience, Marty, with the difference between a corporate and community club is you need to be a little more patient with that community club. Usually the foundation, it can be someone that comes through international as a prospect, but usually it starts from a fire plug or somebody within an organization, maybe within some of your clubs. Maybe it's a club you're visiting as an area governor that wants to, they're excited about Toastmasters. It's an easy sell. The value you get out of this organization, it's an easy sell. And if you're excited about sharing that story, then share that with somebody, find a underserved location, and then begin to publicize that. And the rewards are just too many to list here in this hour that we have.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Now it is time to wrap this training session up. And I am very excited to help each and every one of you build a club. And so now I'm asking you to make a commitment. I would like to see those of you who are comfortable making that commitment to send that letter once a week. I want you all up here. Please come on up if you're going to send a letter once a week to someone, and I will help you. So come on up. I know Cynthia wants to do it. Lewis wants to do it.
Can I ask Lorraine a question?
As soon as we finish this, then we'll open up. Come on up. I want you to help start some clubs. Come on up. If you're going to help start some clubs, come on up. If you're going to be part of this, come on up. If you're interested in sharing your passion, come on up. Come on up. Come on up. Come on up. There's a lot of excitement. I'm going to give you the poll. And I do promise you that with every time that you cast out every time that you cast out that information about Toastmasters, we are going to be there to help you land that club. Thank you all very much. All right. And now you'll take your seats. We have concluded the training session. happy to answer those for you.
Great job!
That's got a question.
Yes. Lorraine, you mentioned that you were from a small town. And
Yes,
Toastmasters, I understand, likes to have a town of about 15,000
yes.
to start a club. In your town, where are you from?
From Watsika.
Watsika? Were you able to start a club there?
Well, actually, for a while, we had two. But Watsika is a small town, but it is the county seat. So we do have a hospital there, and that was the first club. It was a community club. But the interest, the CEO had contacted Toastmasters International about an interest in starting a club there. And some Toastmasters from Kankakee came down. He influenced some of his employees to join Toastmasters, but opened it up to the community also. So that was just an excellent, that's our Iroquois early risers. We met at 7 o'clock in the morning.
So, does the club still exist in Watsika?
That club still exists.
Okay.
Then we went ahead and started an evening club, and we did that by getting out a lot of publicity, sending individual letters to people we thought might be interested in an evening club, because they'd been guests at our morning club and said they really couldn't function that early. So we remembered those people, and we sent out letters to those people, plus some additional ones, and asked them if they might be interested in coming to a demonstration meeting. And so that's how we began the evening club. It took a long time to charter,
So, this club that's existing,
the Iroquois Early Risers.
okay, what kind of membership have you had over the years?
It's a very diversified membership. Right now, we're at a low membership, comparatively low, because it's under the 20. But we consist of professionals, we consist of young people who have communication, like maybe grammar, they know that they're not quite there for communication. We have some retirees, we have PhDs and MBs, and then we have those who have just come from the ground up. So a very, very diversified club, and everyone is welcome, and all those different kinds of people really add a lot of color to our meetings every morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I guess my point is, we don't always have to believe that 15,000 member population in the community.
Absolutely not. And in fact, we Watsikans are really disgusted with Walmart and other corporations that have profiled us and think that we're all farmers. Because really in Watsika, we're very, very many professionals. We have our lawyers, we have the paraprofessionals, we have our nurses, we have a lot of people who are paraprofessionals in that community. And we've been profiled as farmers. So we have to go someplace else for our clothing.
Tom's putting his information up. My information is up there as well. You will also receive this document electronically so that you can craft it and utilize it in a way that suits you. And along with that, you'll get a Word document of the corporate letter that's been crafted. Again, keep in mind, we are all seeking out that perfect place to build a club, but we need to coordinate it through our district and through our new club coordinator, as well as strengthening and giving information for our Jim Dixon, who is working to help clubs. You may find a lead, and that lead could help one of the clubs that Jim is trying to serve. So together, coordinating our efforts, we have members, we remember members, and we make it all happen where Toastmasters and actually leaders are made. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, you can applaud. You did a great job. For the division governors, I just wanted to have one each for the current clubs that have, at least we've gotten leads on, we've got a start going, they're already forming, some getting close to chartering. And then I have, for each of the division governors, On the sheet that I keep, these are the fish that got away over the years, so to speak. These were clubs that at one time were hot leads. They were prospects that were halfway to chartering. And I've kept them in this database because they represent an opportunity. Minimally, I don't have contact names or phone numbers or email addresses for every lead, but at least they're organizations that at one point had an interest. So if you find some of these in your area, then these might also, to go along with some of the leads that Marty gave you, might give you some more prospects for that once a week or more, hopefully, letter writing campaign that we could maybe come back to some of these and regenerate some interest. So I'll put these up here. There's just, again, one for each division governor. As Marty said, we'll probably put this out somewhere on the website, make it interactive, so you could just plunk in there and put your information in, and I could follow up with you to see what resources you need from the district. So, thank you.